Hello, and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. We're back, and this time we're doing an opposition preview for Sparta Prague, and we've got none other than Thomas from Czech Footy to give us the lowdown on the Czech side. Thomas, how are you? And how much you looking forward to this game tomorrow?
Hi, I'm very fine. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I kind of look forward. It's obviously a rematch from just a year ago, so it would be a very interesting confrontation, I imagine.
What can you take from the first game into this game? Because I saw like the Shamrock Rovers players, they were interviewed yesterday, and they said like the one thing about them is they won't panic. Maybe previous Irish sides, and obviously Sparta Prague have been kind of at the elite levels of the European competitions as well. So like the Champions League, the Europa League, and stuff like that. Whereas Shamrock Rovers, this is probably the pinnacle that they've had to date. They haven't been any higher. Like they were in the Europa League, I would say, but they definitely getting to the knockout phase last year was probably the highest that they've gone in terms of the European competition. I know they've played at Europa League, but you have obviously played at a higher level in terms of Sparta Prague. So what can you probably expect or make from that last game?
Yeah, I think Sparta are definitely sort of seasoned continental team at this point because they had to, of course, navigate three playoff sets of games. So ultimately, six of them to just get here. It was basically the same story last year with the Champions League as well. So they have a lot of games under their belt at this stage, especially under different coaches as well. Yeah, of course, they do have a different coach right now, the one that basically failed to take them to European, to the main stage, but he also did clinch two titles, so he's more of a domestic success than he was international when he was there for 2 seasons before heading off to Feyenoord. So it's going to be interesting to see him how Sparta fares in this competition proper. Of course, like it was a bit different, and they were quite successful in the playoffs, getting here this summer. But this is, of course, a whole different story right now, and will be interesting to what extent they can also translate a quite satisfactory domestic form to this level.
Yeah, well, from Sparta's point of view, like how have they been doing to date, and what are they coming into this game in the form? What is the kind of players that are in hot form and that maybe Shamrock Rovers should look out for?
Yeah, so the form, I would say it's more of a bounce back because last season, of course, was disastrous. They were basically one game away from not even getting into Europe, full stop, which after back-to-back titles would be nothing short of a disaster. So even then, it was embarrassing because they finished fourth, and as I said, they needed the last round to just hang in there. So now you can say they bounce back pretty strongly. They of course didn't win just two of the 10 games, so that's pretty solid. Just recently, I think 3 rounds ago, they suffered their first loss. That was quite uninspired performance, but otherwise, I think they are doing reasonably well, showing some swagger, basically winning the weekend game within the first half. So then even resting a couple of guys even as they went, basically because there was nothing to play for. Yeah, I think they'll be confident. There's a number of players who are showing improved form. They are mostly international. So Sparta, of course, are relying heavily on international players as opposed to Czech ones, even though they also have Pavel Kadeřábek, who just returned this summer from, I think it was a 10-year stint ultimately in Bundesliga with Hoffenheim. So yeah, he's a veteran on that right wing back, freshly back from an injury. But otherwise, the most informed players right now would be probably Marcado, who's got some very interesting runs of the last defender as a winger or potentially even wing back, and then Rrahmani, who's a center forward, very sort of creative for a center forward, very soft touch, very sweet shooting technique. He can score goals like Thierry Henry did for Arsenal back in the day. So yeah, he's got pretty much one of the best shooting techniques we've seen in Czech league recently. So I think these two would be the ones to watch out for. At the same time, Lukáš Haraslín, who's been their star, the main star for the past, let's say, 2 to 3 years, he's very freshly back from injury, also a Slovak international. So it seems like he will play some part after missing a few games, but it's obviously unclear yet whether he will come off the bench or whether he will start proper.
And just from Shamrock Rovers' point of view, have you been looking at any of their results, or have you been looking at any of their players, or do any players from last year maybe stand out to you going into this fixture?
I must admit I don't remember much from last year, and also like from the Sparta's perspective, it's quite funny because only 3 players are basically survivors from that starting 11 at Letna in Prague. So like there was a huge turnover, of course, like some sort of optimizing of the squad, because a lot of those players who are not here anymore are actually not former stars. They are rather sort of dropouts who were just upgraded. So for Sparta, it's definitely going to be a bit different. For Shamrock, I think, and Priske mentioned it at the press conference as well. The coach that Shamrock, of course, has a quite a long unbeaten stretch, if I'm not mistaken, around 10 games. So that's of course respectful, and I think Sparta is going into this with much more respect than maybe the 2 games from last season would suggest or indicate.
Yeah, some people are saying it's probably the strongest team, but I've seen them with stronger teams. If I'm being honest, I just think that they've been really, really good this season. That they just never really had a sort of bad game. Like they've been, a lot of people will say that they haven't really reached their top level, but they've just been so good consistently that they've just kind of gone like that, like just steadily across. And now they need 1 point in the next 5 games to win the league. So that just kind of shows you how much better they've been than everybody else. Even though it looks like they could go up in a few gears, and they may go up a few gears in this European phase. I know last year they done really well in the games, except for the Chelsea game, but every other game that they were very much contesting, and they did quite well. But as you say, they're going to be coming up against a different beast in this Sparta team compared to last year. How do you feel, if you had to give, say, a prediction, how would you feel that this game would go? I know you're going to probably give it more biased from a Czech point of view, and that's fine. But how would you see it going if you had to choose?
Yeah, I think looking at it from also from a perspective of what Spartan really like needs or can afford to, I don't think they can afford to drop any points here. Pretty much in any home game, to be honest. It's nothing against Shamrock in particular, but their draw is, I would say, one of the softest that they could have gotten probably. So there's just no excuses for them. Actually, like there was something of a consensus, if I remember, at the draw that they should be aiming for the top 8, which of course might be a bit of a tall task, but I think the schedule, the draw is really sort of on their side, and it's of course highly advisable for them to start off on a good note. Yeah, I would guess that might be a bit of a dirty win, but at least by 1 goal, they should be good enough for that.
I just think though as well, Shamrock Rovers have improved as well though, I will say. I mean, they got a new goalkeeper in Ed McGinty. He's an upgrade on what they had last year. And then they have Roberto Lopez is playing for Capta Verde at the moment, and they're 1 game away from playing in the World Cup. If they win their next game, they're top of a group that actually has Cameroon in it, and he's been a kind of mainstay with them, and he's been a mainstay with Shamrock Rovers. He's been there through all their success under Stephen Bradley. Obviously, Stephen Bradley's been there quite a long time, and he's built up quite a lot of knowledge in the European games, I would say, as well. So I think Shamrock Rovers, I don't necessarily think they'll win this game, but I do think that they will make it tough for Sparta. And then looking at that, look, if Shamrock Rovers can come away from this game with a draw, I think they'd be very happy to take a draw away in Prague, and then look to continue where they left off from last season. They were unlucky not to beat Molde in the end. They kind of ran out of squad depth, if I'm being honest. They could have probably beaten Molde. But yeah, so I think that they've gained a lot of European experience now, that I feel like that they could actually be a threat this time around. Do I think they'll beat Sparta Prague? No, not really. But I do think that they could. I do think that they could manage a draw, though. I think they could frustrate Sparta Prague. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it will be interesting also to compare for last year the stage of the season where Sparta now is, because I think back then it was still July, maybe the second game was already August, but it was very early, and for us, of course, that's after first round basically. I know for Ireland it's a bit different, but yeah. So right now, of course, with 1/3 of the regular season behind Sparta, I think they should have also that sort of a swagger and much fitness under the belt. So that should somehow make it easier for them, and hopefully smoother as well the whole game. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but also our start to European competitions, like all around, because of course me running an account that looks at all the Czech clubs, yeah, quite concerned for the coefficient, to put it lightly. Because there were a lot of also like late, collapses and that sort of stuff from Plzeň and Slavia. So yeah, we definitely cannot afford as a Czech football gunning for that, or I mean, trying to stay in top 10 or around top 10. We cannot afford to not win this game. Yeah.
Yeah, so they'll be doing everything they can to win. But tell me, I usually finish with a score prediction. Now I've just said I think Shamrock Rovers can get a draw, so I'll go 1-1. And that's just be no bias there whatsoever on that one. I think that could finish 1-1. How do you feel like it will go?
I'll go one better and say 2-1. I think neither of the teams will keep a clean sheet, but also it won't be as high scoring as the last year's game, which saw 6 goals. Even though Sparta might have it in them, but yeah, I don't see that happening necessarily.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen. Before we let you go, obviously we got you from Twitter, but where can people find you? What are your other social medias? Do you have a podcast or anything else? Where can people watch and view your stuff? If they were looking to check out Czech Footy.
Yeah, since this summer, there's actually a website as well, czechfooty.com. So I used to publish articles normally in summer and winter over at medium.com, the free publishing sort of site. So now I have my own, but otherwise I'm really just on Twitter, or X right now. So yeah, you can find me there under Czech Footy. I normally just tweet out stuff about what's happening, really. Try to be funny sometimes as well, but it's not necessarily a serious analysis, other than summer and winter when I get some time to get to writing.
Yeah. Well, listen, you've came on, you've given us good analysis there. So, Thomas, thank you very much for your time. Guys, go check out his Twitter page because he's got nearly 10,000 followers. Really good, really in-depth knowledge of Czech football. And obviously, when I was looking for someone to speak to, I was like, well, who else can we get other than Czech Footy? So, yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments on whether you think Shamrock Rovers or Sparta Prague will win in this one, and we'll speak to you all later. Goodbye.
Cheers.